Okay, good to vach, friends. I want to speak about a very amazing sugya. I think somebody brought up this question when we were learning Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph. The Mishnah said on Tezayin Amud Aleph that there's a chomer of Nedarim over Shavua. What is that chumrah? The chumrah is that if you say koinam sukkah shani oisa, lulav shani noitel, tefillin shani meniach, by Nedarim it's aser, and by Shavuos it's mutter. So if somebody swears they're not going to sit in the sukkah, they're not going to take tefillin, they're not going to take a lulav, then they have to abide by the neder. But if somebody swears they're not going to sit in the sukkah or take a lulav, the shvua is not chal, ein nishba and laver ala mitzvah. But you could make a neder not to do a mitzvah. The Gemara is explained because it's a sort of an isser. The Gemara says it's chal on the item itself. Fine. So I think the question was brought up. So think about it. The guy swore he's not going to take a lulav. Okay, so he has to abide by it. Otherwise, lo yachel dvarai. But on the other hand, he has a mitzvah to take the lulav. So why don't we say Asei, Doche lois Asei? Okay. So why is a neder chal on a mitzvah, but the mitzvah Saasei, to do the mitzvah, should push off the lav of la yachel devarai. Okay, that's the question. Why don't we say Asei doicha lois Asei? That's a geshmaka kasha, and this is the question of Rishonim already. We're going to see this is the question of the Sefer HaChinuch and other notable Rishonim. So let's go to the first Mara Makoim, which is the Rashba. The Rashba asks, Hada Amar Yeshiva Sukkah Alai Vim Taimar Lesi Asei the Sukkah V'Lidchi Lois Asei D'Layachel Devarai. And if you're going to ask, let the Asei of Sukkah come and push off the Lois Asei of Layachel Devarai. So the Rashba gives a simple answer that Nedarim are not only a Lois Asei, it's a Lois Asei V'Asei. It says Layachel Devarai, and also K'chal HaYotz Mipev Yasa. V'yesh Loimar, says the Rashba, the Nedarim Asei V'Lois Aseihim, Asei K'chal HaYotz Mipev Yasa, the Asei, everything that comes out of your mouth you should do, Lois Aseh Lo Yachel Devarai. Fine. The Sefer HaChinuch also asks this question and gives the same answer. If you look on page 2, V'im tishal misha nadar, someone who made a vow, Shlai lechal davar shu mitzvah alav la'achlai, eich lo yachlani, how could you not eat it? Sharei oisid davar mitzvahu, that matter is a mitzvah. Mitzvah alav ba'asei, v'yava yasei, v'yircha lo yisasei, d'lo yachal. Kichein yoimru chachamim. This is what the chachamim said, b'chol makoim, asei asei, v'doicha lo yisasei. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, Tshuvasach, the answer is Sha'neder Asei V'Lav Yishbai. A neder is an Asei and a lav. Lav D'Lo Yachel, V'Asei K'chol HaYotz Mipiv Ya'asa. Okay. The Nemuke Yosef, I think this should be page 3, also asks this question. If you look, it's on the bottom right-hand side of the page. Lefish, the Nemuke Yosef doesn't give that answer. That's an Asei and a Lois Asei. The Nemuke Yosef says, Lefisha Nedarim chalan al dvar mitzvah. Nedarim are chal on a dvar mitzvah. The Nedarim iser cheftzahim. A neder is an iser cheftzah. Ve'in machilin la'adam davar asar. We cannot feed somebody something that's asar to him. Shaloi amra Torah lasais mitzvah be'isurei hana. The Torah did not say to do a mitzvah with isurei hana. Therefore, we cannot say with this, the lesei asei, the mitzvah, v'lidchi lois asei the nedarim. We can't have the mitzvah push off the lav. Why? Because a neder is an iser chefza, and on an iser chefza, you don't say asei doicha lois asei. Nemuke Yosef says a big chiddush. Then when it comes to an iser chefza, we don't say asei doicha lois asei. So we have two answers, and he says Kol shekain nedarim is an asei v'lois asei. So it's interesting. The Rashba and the Sefer HaChinuch say the reason why we don't say asei doich lois asei is because a nedarim is asei v'lois asei, and an asei cannot push off a lav and an asei. And then Nemuke Yosef says because nedarim is an isser chefza, so therefore we don't say asei is doicha lois asei. Reb Shmuel Rozovsky brings an explanation from Reb Shimon Shkop. Of what relevance is it that Nedarim is an Isser Chefza? Therefore what? Since it's an Isser Chefza, therefore we don't say Asei Doche Asei? Hikshu Harishainim Beha de Kainamais Chalen Levato As HaMitzvah De Mikamakoim Lesei Asei Velidcha Lois Asei de Kainamais. So he quotes the Rajma and the Chinuch that Nedarim is a Lois Asei and Asei, and he quotes the Memukei Yosef that it is an Isser Chefza. So Reb Shmuel Rozovsky asks that it's hard to understand the words of the Memukei Yosef. What does Isser Chefza have to do with Dechia? What difference does it make if Nedarim is an Isser Chefza or not? So he quotes from Shimon Shkop, quoted in the Sefer Oyel Torah and Sharei Torah, a Masechta Nedarim, who explains the Isser Chefza. What is an Isser Chefza? It's a din in the chayfetz that normally the person's not to eat something. By Nedarim is the item cannot be eaten because you're profaning the item. Because a kainam, a neder, is an Inyan kedusha. There's mi'ila by a kainam. So you can't say Asei is doiche. The Asei is the person could do this. But that's very nice, the person could do this, but how are you going to remove the intrinsic problem and isser and kedusha of the item, that it's not that I can't eat the item, it's that the item has a problem that it can't be eaten. So Asei doich halois asei is, from my vantage point, even though I'm not allowed to do it, the command to do it overrides. But if the problem with me eating it is because the item can't be eaten, then my command to eat it cannot override what's intrinsic to the item. So I'm not sure how much more explanation that adds, but that's trying to explain what the Memukei Yosef means, that it's an Isser Chefza. The Stipler on the next page brings something very interesting. Why didn't the Rashba want to say that the reason why it's Asser is because it's an Isser Chefza and Asei Doicha is not Doicha Lois Asei? So I would have said, well, the Rashba is giving a much simpler answer. It's because, of course, Asei can't be a Doicha Lois Asei. It's an Asei and a Lois Asei. Violating a Neder is not just pushing off a lav, it's pushing off a lav and an Asei. But he brings something very interesting, that the opinion of the Rashba is all Isurei Torah are Isser Chefza. And yet we say Asei Doicha Lois Asei, so he didn't want to give that answer. But the Memukei Yosef says no, normally Isurei Torah are Isser Gavra. Except for Nedarim. I'm not sure I understand that, because what does that mean? The Rashba holds all Isurei Torah are Isser Chefza, but we've differentiated between Neder and Shavua so many times. That Neder is an Isser Gavra, Isser Chefza, and Shavua is an Isser Gavra. But he's saying that in the world of the Rashba, all Isurei Torah are Isser Chefza, so you can't say, we don't say Asei Doicha Lois Asei by Isurei Chefza, because all Lavin in the Torah are Isurei Chefza. Then we have another answer to this question of why don't we say Asei Doicha Lois Asei by a Neder, from the Shar HaMelech. I was zoichet to be at the Shar HaMelech's kever in Livorno. He says, you know when you say Asei Doicha Lois Asei? When the situation that you find yourself in is an Asei versus a Lois Asei. But if you're the one responsible for creating the Lois Asei, and it's the Lois Asei is through your negligence, we're not going to say Asei Doicha Lois Asei. Shar HaMelech says, he brings the question of the Chinuch, based on Toisus and Erevin. He says, "In Taimer Lesei Asei Velidcha Lois Asei." He says it's not similar to Klayim and Tzitzis, because here it's coming through Pshia, and it could have been fulfilled without pushing off the lav. So too here you could say, you know why we don't say Asei Doicha Lois Asei? Because it came through Pshia. You made a neder not to eat matzah. So what do you want to say? Push it off with the asei? Well, you should have thought about that before you made the neder. Asei doich holiest says when there's no choice. There was a choice here. You could be mekayim the asei without violating the lav. How? Don't make the neder. Now, I didn't put it on the sheet. There's a big question over here. The question is, that there's a Gemara in Yavamis that says an Isser that's Yeshnai B'Shela is more lenient. And on such an Isser, we do say Asei doich lois asei v'asei. In other words, one of the reasons why the answer that, what do you mean? It's a lav asei, so of course you can't push it off. One of the reasons that's not so pashat is because a lav and an asei that you could be mater is not so strict, and regarding that we do say asei is doich lois asei v'asei. So that's something that Rabbi Chanan deals with. That why don't we say, even though the Rashba and the Chinuch says it's a lav and an asei that has to be pushed away, nevertheless, since it's efshar b'shela, we should say asei is doicha lois asei v'asei sheyesh noi b'shela. I want to share with you one more answer to this question of why don't we say asei doicha lois asei, and this is the answer of Reb Chaim Brisker, quoted by Reb Shmuel Rozovsky. And Reb Chaim says Geshmak Alamdas. Reb Chaim's lamdas is, look, the truth is it's efshar b'she'ela, and really asei should push off a lava asei sheyeshna b'she'ela. And regarding Isser Chefza, maybe asei could push off a lav that's in Isser Chefza. But question for you. Question is, when would you violate the lav? And when would you be mekayim the asei? Let's say I aser this sukkah, or I take a neder, I'm not going to put on tefillin. When I put on the tefillin, so you want to say let the asei of tefillin push off the lav of lo yachal dvarai. When am I over lo yachal dvarai? If I put on the tefillin, am I over when I put on the tefillin? Or am I over retroactively at the time that I made the neder? So the rule in Asei doich lois asei is the Asei could push off the lav that I'm over at the time that I fulfill the Asei. But if by fulfilling the Asei I'm triggering the violation of a lav retroactively to an earlier time, then how in the world can Asei push off a lav from an earlier time? So that's how Reb Chaim says it. The Grach says, any neder shvua, we say that at the time that you made the neder, you're over on the neder. So if you say asei doich lois asei and I have to send the sukkah, I'm going to be violating the lav l'mafreya. We don't say asei doich lois asei to violate a lav l'mafreya. That's what Reb Chaim says. Okay? Okay, Rabbi Say, thank you very much for joining tonight, and we'll try to get to Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis on sometime later this week. Shkoyach.